Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. The podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is Rachel Bray. Rachel is a legend who's not a podiatrist. In fact, you may have heard the name before. If you listen to episode 319, Why All Podiatrists Should Be Blogging with Ivan Bristow, Rachel's name came up because Ivan did Rachel's course. Now, today we're going to talk about the importance of a website, SEO, and regular content updates, which I'm a massive fan of. And Rachel's business is Rachel Bray Writing. So Rachel, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
When I spoke to Ivan and he said, you should get Rachel on, because I think the knowledge she has is something that all podiatrists should be thinking about their websites more. They should be blogging. They should be thinking about SEO and regular updates. And I don't think a lot of podiatrists understand the importance of doing that.
I think if you take a view of your website is important, you can actually make sure that you end up with the right people. You're offering the services that you want to offer more often than other ones. You can put your prices up potentially. It gets you better known in your industry. There's just so many things that having a well-maintained website and regularly updating it can do for you that is more than just getting the next person through the door.
Yeah, some podiatrists do think that, well, if I just open up a clinic, put a sign up that says podiatrist, people are just going to come flooding in. But that is not the case. And you can do it that way. I do know people that have been right area, right time, and word of mouth has done very well for them, and they've had a really bad website, and they've just left it there for 10 years. They go, I don't need to do anything. But I think as time goes on, the younger podiatrists coming through will understand this sort of what needs to be done.
Absolutely. And I think also it's all very well word of mouth and all the rest of it, but if anything happens with that, if for whatever reason all your clientele are the older generation, or they're younger and they don't get why podiatry isn't just for old people. I mean, there's a big view that it's very misunderstood. Most people don't even know what a podiatrist does, and a lot of
Yeah.
people think it's just old people having their toenails clipped because they can't reach them themselves. So you need to educate your future audience as much as anything. And also, if you're just relying on word of mouth, you are literally just getting the business that presents itself to you, which doesn't give you the opportunity to explore the things that you're most interested in, that are most profitable for you, that you enjoy doing. You just end up with what you've got, which might be something. And if you're depending on word of mouth and you performed a certain service for somebody that you don't enjoy doing and isn't profitable, but they're going around telling everybody that you're brilliant at this, that's what you'll end up getting. So the website and blogs and everything to do with that, you can steer things in a different direction if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, how it was explained to me once, and I've said this to a lot of people, is nobody really wakes up in the morning with a sore foot, and as soon as they wake up and they get out of bed, go, I need to see a podiatrist today. It's not what goes through the head. So what will happen is they'll have an ache or pain, or there's some ailment, ingrown toenail. They'll jump onto Google or Bing, whichever search engine they use. They'll jump in there. They'll type in, why does my heel hurt when I get out of bed in the morning? And then they'll start reading articles about, oh, you might have this, you've got heel pain, oh, you've got plantar fasciitis. And then the word podiatry will start to pop up a few times. They go, if they're smart. If they're not very smart, they won't do this. But this is the smart patients, and these are the ones you want, will go, everything I read so far says I need to see a podiatrist. So what podiatrist treats heel pain in, and then they'll put that area. So if you've got a website that's got no content that's around that particular thing that they're searching for, then you're not going to be found.
Yeah. So if you just Google podiatrist near me, which a lot of people might do, if you haven't got your location, where you are, all those sorts of things in the right places on your website, you will still turn up assuming you've got your address, which I'm going to assume you have, you'll still turn up in a search, but you will not be number one just because you happen to be near. You could literally be next door and Google or whoever will not recognize you as the the first or the second or the third, depending on where you are and how many competitors you have to return in a search. So you can't just assume that because you've got a website, it will appear. Google only indexes things that it thinks are worth indexing. It only returns things in searches that it thinks are relevant to what people are looking for. So if you are missing out on the keywords and the locations and all the things that people want, you're just going to come so far down the list that people are just not going to bother. They'll look at the first 1, 2, 3, and then again, they'll look at your website for the first 1, 2, or 3. You might be first because you've got all the SEO you need, or you're just lucky. But if your website's completely rubbish, the chances are they'll have a look at 2 and 3 and quite possibly go with them. So it's more than just, oh well, I've got a website, so it's there, people can see it, therefore I'll get the business. It's not that simple. It used to be.
Yeah, it used to be that way. But it's also too where the lazy podiatrist will go, oh, well, I'm just going to pay for Google Ads and that will push me up the top. And this is something else I've explained to people. If I've searched who treats heel pain in my area and bang, you pop up the top as a Google ad because you've paid for it, you may have paid for heel pain. If I click on that and it takes me to your homepage, and what I was searching for is not right there and then, and I have to start scrolling around and go, okay, I was looking for heel pain. I looked and I can't find it. I will very quickly get off there. I'm not going to go searching around your site to try and find it. So if you do not have the content there, one, I'm going to get really annoyed with you and I'm going to go to a competitor.
And you're still paying for that click.
Yeah, and you're still paid for that.
So you've paid for that person to come to your website and they've done nothing about it. So you're wasting your money at that point.
So what's your suggestions? But where should people start when it comes to all this?
So I would start with a decent website. Make sure that what you do is clear, it's concise, it's correct, it makes you sound professional, it looks professional. So if you're just starting, then create your own website. But bear in mind, if you can invest in a website, it's worth investing in because it should pay dividends.
Well, I always say to people, if you're doing your own website, just be careful because even parents with ugly children think they look good. So
that too. Yeah.
if you're doing your own website and all your friends are going, oh, that looks really good. Like my friend who does podiatry clinic websites, also owns a business called Precedence. She got 21 website developers in a brick and mortar building, and this is what they do every day. And she said to me once, I can dig out my own ingrown toenail too, but I choose not to. I'll let a professional do it.
Absolutely, which is my argument with the copy as well, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, you want to invest in proper website design. You want to invest in proper professional copy. One of the hardest things in the world is to write about your own business. You know it inside out, you understand it. That doesn't mean that everyone else does. It's very easy to get into jargon, you'll read websites where there's like 4 pages of why they became a podiatrist, and it's like, don't care.
Yeah, it's boring.
So focusing on what people want to hear, what they want to read, how they want to read it, and what is going to have an impact on whether they will actually do the things that you want them to do, which the professional can obviously do that far better. And they're a step removed from your business, and they're also not an expert in your business. So they know where they need to explain things and how to explain things. So I would say as much professional is a shop window. So you don't throw all the rubbish into the shop window and just hope for the best. You get everything as looking as good as you can. So professional website design, professional copy, professional images of you, your staff, your clinic, at work. It all makes such a difference. It all adds to a picture of a professional business that knows what they're doing. So I forget what the statistic is. It's quite a high percentage of people, if they come across a website with mistakes on it, they will assume that it's not a professional business. Because if you can't take the time and effort to get it right on your website, why would you take the time and effort to deal with your clients properly? It might not be true, but that's how people interpret it.
I went to a website just the other day. It was a podiatry website. And when I was looking at it, there was a absolute glaring error on the homepage. And I went, how has nobody told you, or have you not even looked at your website to see that mistake?
And this is the thing, you don't look at your own website unless you're regularly updating it. You just don't. And so when I write website copy, for example, if it's a new website, I will put in square brackets any links that need to be inserted, because obviously I can't do that to give it to whoever's inputting the copy. So I'll write insert link to whatever page or whatever it is that I can't actually do for them. And the number of websites I go on where it's still got the square brackets, insert link to, because nobody, either the website developer probably just cuts and pastes the copy from the copywriter, which is not great. Nobody's checked the copy. They've literally just cut and pasted. Nobody's ever looked at the website after it's gone live. They've just looked at the pictures and gone, yeah, it looks great. Nobody's actually read it. And you see this all the time. And websites where they've still got the Latin in or the placeholders, they say, this is where your text about X goes, or they've taken pictures out, they've taken images out, but they've only taken the image out, they haven't taken the space out for the image. So it's just a massive blank.
And people might listen to this and go, oh, that would never happen. Go and have a look at your own. If you've not looked at your website in the past week, go and have a look at it. Look at the articles. And I know even my own website, I'm on there all the time playing around with it. And I still, every now and then, will just find a little error somewhere or something I think needs to be changed. So if you haven't looked at it for a while, and I used to jokingly say, I could look at someone's website and I could tell them the day it went live, because that was they've got 4 blog articles, all with the same date. And I go, oh, so it went live on the 26th of April, 2019.
11.
And they go, how did you know that? And I go, because that's the date of the 4 blog articles. So nothing's been touched since. And you can see spelling mistake and just errors. And when you say about photos, especially photos.
Like, sort of selfies or completely inconsistent pictures of staff. So you'll have one that's a perfect professional headshot and you'll have another one they're clearly on their holiday, and it just doesn't look good. And events, that's another one where and again, you can Google, so you might Google something, an event that you want to go to, you'll get to the web page and you'll find it happened 6 months ago or 2 years ago. Which is really frustrating. So and that happens all the time. Keeping your website up is really quite a task if you're going to do it properly, but it's a bit like housework. The more often you do a little bit, the easier it is. If you sit down and try and stand up and try and do the entire house in one go, it's going to take you hours and it's going to be really hard work. If you do a little bit every day, it's never that big a deal. And your website's sort of like that.
Yeah, and I even know myself, if I've had a holiday break and I may not have gone to my website for 3 weeks, I've already scheduled everything in. Even just having 3 weeks off and I come back, I feel a little bit clunky as I'm doing things. So I can picture people, if they're not going there once every 3 months or once a year, and then no wonder they then have to hand it off to the website developer to upload everything for them. And then they have to wait weeks for that to go up there. And whereas if they just did it themselves and did it a little bit at a time, it would just become a habit of doing it. And it's not hard work.
No, like I said, the more you do it, the easier it is and quicker it is, and the less there is to do effectively. And it's true that you can't, it's almost impossible to have a website that doesn't have some errors on. Even if you get a professional proofreader to go through it, the chances are errors will creep in, but give yourself the best possible thing to start on, because it's so easy to make those errors, and it's so easy not to see your own errors. Your brain fills in what it expects to see. And if you've written it recently, your brain will read in the bits that you think it should be there. Never write something, hit send or publish immediately. Always go back to it. The longer you can leave it, the better. And reading it out loud really helps. You'll find far more errors if you read it out loud. It just makes things more obvious, and time. So if you need stuff overnight, that's always much better.
Even when I did the Podiatry Legends podcast, when I started the podcast and we got the logo and everything done up, I spelled podiatry wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't spell it wrong. The person that did it up for me had just got the A and the I around the wrong way, or was they'd thrown in an extra A. It was podiatry instead of podiatry.
Yes.
And I was so excited about seeing the logo and it looked great. And I see that word all the time. So I saw podiatry.
You don't read it, you just see it.
I had already posted the first episode up when somebody pointed out to me, said, I could be wrong, but I didn't think podiatry had two A's in it. I went, what?
Yeah.
And I look at the logo and went, oh my God. Straight back to the graphic designer. They went, oh my God. Changed it straight away, re-uploaded it. So yeah, not too many people saw it. And only one person ever brought it up to me. But yeah, it is. Your brain sees what it wants to see.
Yeah, it really does. So the more people that you can get to check your work, the better.
So do you recommend people using Grammarly?
So I think Grammarly has its place, very much has its place. I'm very against the idea that you need to get all the green ticks or 100%. I think that's a really, really bad idea.
Yeah.
To aim for 100%, that will send you down all the wrong routes. Personally, I would recommend not writing with it. So it's not writing along with you and correcting things as you do it, because it often gives you suggestions, or it makes you focus on the wrong things. You should focus on what you want to write and write what you want to write, correct it yourself, and then get Grammarly to have a look at it and make your own judgments about what Grammarly is telling you to do, because a lot of the time it's not right. It's based on algorithms, it's based on rules, and it looks at grammar because grammar is based on rules. So what it's looking at is it's assigning parts of speech to different words, which aren't always right. It's not always right. So it could be telling you need a plural, or you need a comma, or you need something, and you absolutely 100% in that particular context do not need that thing. So it's very much, you need to, don't assume just because Grammarly is a grammar expert, it knows what it's talking about. It's based on, like I said, rules and algorithms, and it's a machine. So you still need to know your grammar and what you're trying to say. So take it with a pinch of salt. It can be really useful for pointing out errors. Like we were just talking about errors that you can't see.
Yeah.
It can be really useful for that. You might have put two the's in or missed out the. It can be great for things like that. But don't assume that you need to get 100% for it to be fine for you to use. In my blog course, I've actually have an example of how you can manipulate Grammarly to give you 100% with just nonsense. Completely wrong.
Well, I use Grammarly all the time for different things, and sometimes I used to follow the green, and sometimes it would totally butcher what I had written. That it totally changed the whole. It doesn't understand the context of what I'm talking about. It's looking purely grammatical. Is that right or is it wrong? And I'm going, you're not getting the feeling of what I'm trying to say. There's no heart in it. But it saved my bacon a few times where instead of saying, I want you to get out, it'll say, I want you to get to put, because the O and the P are right next to each other, and out and put. I do a lot of puts and outs just with my typing skills, and Grammarly straight away will pick that up and know that's not what I want to do. But I even noticed, I just updated Word yesterday, and even with the updating of Word, it is started doing things automatically or highlighting a lot more, very similar to Grammarly, without me asking it to do. Whereas beforehand, Word was like, You're no good at writing. You're still going to be no good at writing by the time you finish this article. We're not going to help you too much.
Yeah, and it is helpful for things like filler words. I'm pretty bad at throwing filler words in, and it will point those out. And it does. So from that point of view, it can make you better because you start thinking about the filler words that you're using more than you would if you weren't using those tools. And it can sometimes point out where you think it's clear, but actually it really isn't as clear as you thought it was. So they definitely have their place. Just don't assume you have to get 100% because chances are to get 100%, it won't really be proper English.
I thought now would be a perfect time to dive in. I hope you're enjoying this interview so far with Rachel Bray. Stay tuned for the second part of this. It gets even better the further this interview goes on. It is absolutely fantastic. But I wanted to dive in here just to let everybody know in the UK that I will be doing a podiatry marketing masterclass in Liverpool on Monday, the 3rd of February 2025. I will be doing some in Australia as well, but at this stage, this is the only one I've got planned. It's the day before the Foot and Ankle Show. So if you're going to Liverpool for the Foot and Ankle Show, come a day earlier and spend the day with me, Podiatry Marketing Masterclass. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. All the details are on my website. Just go to tysonfranklin.com. And when you're there, just click on events and have a read through all the information that is there. My goal is to have about 20 people in the room. I like to keep it relatively small. And what we're going to be covering over that day will just totally change the way that you currently approach your marketing. So go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, click on events, and you'll find all the information there. Now let's get back to the second part with Rachel Bray. So we've discussed like why they need to have a website and have a look at how old it is and does it need to be updated. Did you do it yourself? Did your 14-year-old son put it together for you a couple of years ago and it needs to be updated? Talk to a professional. When it comes to SEO, the whole search engine optimization, where does a copywriter play in that area?
Okay, so there's technical SEO and then there's on-page SEO. So a copywriter would be involved in the on-page SEO. You need both. So with the technical SEO, it gets very complicated, but some basic things that the search engines look at are things like your page loading speed, whether it's a secure site, whether it's optimized for mobile. Super important. So Google now looks at mobiles first, looks at how things show up on your mobile. It looks at those first because most people now search mobiles rather than on their computers. So if you have a website that's quite old and it's not optimized for mobile, you'll be right down the bottom of the list. Because if you've been on a website recently on your phone where you've had to scroll sideways, backwards and forwards to actually be able to read the whole page because it doesn't show up on the page, that means that website hasn't been optimized for mobiles. So Google is prioritizing that. So those are sort of technical aspects that are looked at. And then it looks at all the tags and the headings and the titles and all those sorts of things. And a copyright and keywords, phrases, where they are. It looks at the page layout, whether you've got lots of white space, if you've got like long, deep paragraphs with no breaks, that's bad because we read very differently online. We don't read like we would read a newspaper or a book in print. We scan, we have a sort of F-shaped pattern. So we'll look at the top heading, we'll scroll down the left-hand side, and our eye will be drawn to the sort of headings as you go down the page. Okay. We don't start at the top and finish at the bottom. We skim. So what you write and how you write it is really important. So we'll start at the top, and if it's not interesting, we won't even bother with the rest. So you've got to get your keywords and phrases in at the top. Google looks at your heading title, your page SEO title, it looks at your paragraphs, it looks for keywords to try and work out what you're talking about. So it indexes and sort of assigns what it it goes to your page, tries to work out what you're talking about, and then it puts it in a box for what it is. So if you've got no keywords or the wrong keywords in the wrong places, Google's going to get confused, going to think you're talking about something else, put you in the wrong box. So if people are searching for what you think you're talking about, but you haven't got any of the things in there for the search engines to understand that, then they're not returning you in searches. And equally, if you've got the wrong keywords in your blog or web page, whatever it is, and it turns up in a search for something that it's not really about, when people get to that page and realize actually it's not what I want at all, they're straight off that page, which is bad for your SEO, because it shows that you're providing the wrong information or poor quality information. So Google's like, well, they're not worth bothering with then, so we bother. So their users know what they want, their users are typing in what they want, and they want to go immediately to the answer to whatever it is they want to know. And if your website is not providing the answers to what they want to know, they're not doing a good job, and they want to do a good job. So you need to give them the information they need, the search engines, the information they need, so that they can return you in the right searches to the right people and give them and make them look good, basically.
That's one of the best explanations I've heard in a long time. Serious.
Thank you.
That was one of the best explanations, because I've heard people mention it numerous times, and everything you were saying, I'm going, yep. I've heard different things from different people. That's the first time I've heard someone actually put that together for it to, I think it made sense.
That's how I see it. So I feel that's the theory that SEO works on. So that's what you're aiming for. You're aiming to give people what they want to know. So if you're writing a blog to give them information about something specific, you need to give them that information. And I think in particular now with the whole clickbait thing where it all went,
doesn't that annoy you?
Bit ridiculous. There's nothing worse than clickbait. And it used to be that you would write a blog, you might answer the question, but you would get to the point at the end. So old school writing an essay.
Yeah.
You give you'd give your conclusion, you get to the end. There's definitely a school of thought now where you give pretty much all the information in the first paragraph. If people are interested in what you've got to say, they'll keep reading. But there's nothing worse than getting a bit of the information, getting to the end and discovering you haven't had your question answered. So, and it all changes all the time as well, because there are always people out there who will try and manipulate the algorithms to get to the top of the list.
Yeah.
So recently, with the advent of the AI writing tools and ChatGPT, it was very much, we can write 1 billion blogs, stick them on our website, and we'll be top of everything. And that worked very briefly. And then Google obviously got wise to that, and entire websites just lost all their domain authority, which was a big deal for some larger businesses, because they had to basically start from scratch again. They destroyed all their domain authority and just disappeared in the listings.
So people who are just going to ChatGPT and go, hey, write me an article on heel pain, and it goes, writes it all out from that, and they're putting up, they're thinking, well, I've done my thing now, then they're going to get spanked.
So initially it was, if it's been written by AI, then we don't want it. That was how it started out. And then they changed it. So it's okay to use AI as far as the search engines are concerned, but it still has to be all the things the search engines want it to be. So it has to be expert, authoritative, trustworthy. I've forgotten the other one, the EEAT. So it still has to be well written. It still has to have all the right information. It still has to satisfy everything the reader wants. So while you can use AI, you won't be penalized by Google just because it's AI. You still might be if it's rubbish. So, and it's so generic, you're not doing yourself any favors by just using really not. It's generic, it's soulless, half the time it's wrong. And the whole point of giving your customers relevant information is to help them, but also to help them get to know you better. So if you're just reading a generic thing that could have been written by literally anybody, it's really not doing what it's designed to do. So if you're going to use AI, there's ways to use it, and I think its main strengths are not in the actual producing the words. It can help you with blogs, with ideas, with structures, with all sorts of things, but don't tell it to write a blog about X and then cut and paste.
Yeah.
If you're going to use it to help you write your blogs, you need to really think about the prompts that you're giving it. It's a lot of work. To get a good blog out of AI is a process, and it's work. So you need to ask yourself whether that would be your time would be better invested in writing it yourself, or getting a professional copywriter to write it for you, because you'll get so much more out of.
Yeah. Do you write a lot of blog articles for podiatrists, or you don't, or is it other industries?
So I do all the industries. I do mainly service-based industries. I haven't written loads of blogs for podiatrists. I've written several websites for them.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I sort of work on is, if I can research it, I can write about it, because
It's true.
I might not be a podiatrist, but the point is I am your target customer.
Yeah.
So if you can't explain to me what you do in a way that I can understand, and then explain it to your target customer in a way that they want to hear it, it's pointless. So in theory, I can write for most industries, and I actually really enjoy that, because you learn so much. I find out so much about so many different things. I've written for industries I didn't even know existed as a thing before I started writing about. And it's quite surprising how interesting some of the driest subjects can be when you actually get into the theory and the background and all the rest of it. So I think in some ways it helps to have somebody that is that step removed from what you do, and is completely impartial.
Yeah.
They've got no agenda. They're producing something that sort of fits all the rules, but is creative at the same time, and does the job it's designed to do. So
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So your blog writing course that you have, and this is one that Ivan was talking about, and he reckons every podiatrist should do it.
yeah,
How do people find out, get more information about it? And can you tell us a little bit about the course? And I'll just let everyone know that I'm not getting a kickback in any way, that I'm just sharing this information because I know it's very useful for the profession.
Yeah, so my whole thing is, not everyone can afford a professional copywriter to write their blogs on a weekly, twice a monthly basis. You can't, or you might not want to. A lot of people, particularly podiatrists, it seems, are lacking that creative edge in their work, and really enjoy having a creative outlet, and writing is often that for many people. So there's loads of reasons why you might want to write your own blogs, which is great. However, if you are going to be writing your own blogs, it's not just getting 500 words onto a page. There's so much more to it than just being a good writer, just getting some words down, just sticking stuff on Google. There's so much that you need to think about and be aware of, and be doing and not doing. So my course is designed to make sure you know all the things that you need to know in order to produce blogs that are going to have an impact. So it looks at things like your target audience, and how do you work out who they are, and are you targeting something specific, like we talked about. So for example, 3 websites I've written recently, one was very much focused on family. It's very friendly, that sort of target customer, whereas one of the other ones was very much more in the sort of sports rehab arena. So there's a million different things that you can focus on. So if you were writing blogs for those 2 different websites, you'd write in a completely different way about probably different things. And that also all has to be written in a way that the search engines are going to be able to find your blogs. And you also, it's very easy to come up with 5 or 10 blogs to start with. There's loads of questions that everyone needs to know. So you've got, what does a podiatrist do? When do I need to see a podiatrist? Or pain, or whatever it is. There's loads of things that you can think of to start with, and then it gets tricky. So, and coming up with ideas can be really hard. So there's ways to come up with different ideas, where you can find ideas, ways that you can check whether you've got the right titles, keywords, and so on. So it looks at all of those things.
So your course is covering all these areas to make it easier for everyone.
Exactly. And then most people, again, it's like you post the blog, you're done. That's the end of it. It's done, it's written, it's up there. It's not. You then need to market your blog, and you can use it for social media. You can use it for, it's not just one piece of writing that you've stuck on your website and forgotten about. It has there's lots of things that you can do with it afterwards as well. And that's also important.
So where do people get access to the course? Because your website would be rachelbraywriting.com. So do they go to that and they'll follow through to a course?
Yeah, so I've got a page on my website, and you'll find links on my social media. So or you can contact me on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook. Any way you contact me, if you can't find the information on the course online, which you should be able to, just get in touch.
Yeah, well, I'll have all the details in the show notes. And I have one final question, which is, when you talk about regular content updates, this is one question that everybody asks me all the time. How often is regular?
Okay, and that is very much a how long is a piece of string question.
Yes.
So ideally, you at least once a month, you want to be posting a new blog. We've talked about making sure that things are right on your website. So if you've got events, delete them. So basically, working on your website tells the search engines that it's still current. Again, I forget the numbers, but there's billions of websites, and a very small percentage of them are actually live and current.
Yeah.
So and the search engines have a limited amount of capacity to crawl everything. So if they, and as we mentioned, everything needs to be the right information. So they're not going to take the risk that something that hasn't been touched for 5 years is still the right information necessarily. So if you're updating your website regularly, that tells the search engines that it's still relevant. It's still something that they should be caring about. So blogs are a really great way to do that. And when you're on your website doing your blog, you can make other changes. And it's just really, having a blog really helps you maintain your website as well. And then how regular is regular? One of the elements is what is sustainable for you.
Yeah.
Like massive companies might be posting multiple blogs a day. That's highly unlikely to be.
Yeah, not too many podiatrists are going to be doing that a couple of times a day.
Really not necessary. If you're writing your own blogs and you absolutely love writing and you've got all the time in the world for it and you want to post a blog a week, amazing.
Yeah.
Most people start out, I'm going to post a blog every 2 weeks. They might manage 2 or 3, and then it's just all too much headspace and effort, and it's easier just to forget about it completely. So the best thing to do is to commit to something that you can actually achieve. So once a month, commit to that, put it in your diary, tell everyone that you're going to post a blog once a month, make yourself accountable so that it then becomes harder to not do it.
Yep.
So post on your social media, my blog will be out next week, and then you have to write it. So commit to something that is sustainable for you. Don't go all in on doing one a month, one a week, one every 2 weeks. Start with once a month, commit to it, do it. And if that works, you can always increase it. And
unless you're doing it for them.
Yeah, and then obviously if you've got a professional writing it for you, that it's whatever you want to commit them to.
Yeah.
So most people would be at least once a month, and they don't have to be 2,000 words. They have to be at least 500. Some people say 300. I would say go for minimum of between 3 and 5, absolute minimum. Don't worry about 2,000 words, but I've written for companies that will be posting a blog a day and there will be 2,000 words each. And you're basically writing the same thing in a slightly different way 100 times, which is quite soul destroying.
Yeah, well, a guide that somebody showed me once was they said you might have an evergreen article, which could be 1,000, 2,000, it could be 4,000 words. It could be as long as you want because the article's never changing. It might be, for example, on Morton's neuroma. That's not going to change. What it is what it is. Then your blog articles, you can write about Morton's neuroma in many different ways, and say 300 to 500 words, which can, if people want more information, they can then read the evergreen article. So what you're thinking then on frequently asked questions should it be written as a blog article, or you can do some shorter 150, 200 word frequently asked questions?
Okay, so frequently asked questions you should have on each page. You should have at the bottom frequently asked questions that relate to the page that you're on, because it helps with your SEO. It's better for people because they don't then have to scroll to click to an FAQ page, and it really helps with your SEO because again it answers all the questions. It makes the search engines can see exactly what that page is about, which really helps. So ideally you want frequently asked questions on each page of what you are talking about, and they should be phrased in the way that people are putting them into the search engines. So things like, what does a podiatrist do, would easily be a frequently asked question, 2 or 3 lines. It's like you have to answer the question you're asking clearly, concisely. It doesn't need to be hundreds of words. It can literally be 2 lines if it's answering the question. So frequently asked questions on each of your pages, and then a frequently asked question makes a brilliant blog post, and you can go into way more detail.
Okay.
So you can have this both on your website. One's a blog, one's more details, 500 or more words. It's got all the SEO in for that thing. And then your FAQ is also good for your SEO, but it's a question and you've answered it.
Yep.
And easily as you can.
Short, succinct, just straight to the point.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I would say is not everything you put on your website has to be for SEO. Yeah. So not every blog you write has to answer a question that somebody is Googling in exactly the way that they do that. You are informing, educating, and building trust and authority with the people who are coming to your website. So don't just think it's there for SEO. It's not. The search engines want to give their customers the best possible experience. You want to give your customers the best possible experience. You want them to know that you're trustworthy, you're good at your job, you're the expert in your field, and you can do that with the copy in your website. So don't get too focused on SEO. You make sure you get it in there.
Yeah.
But don't think everything has to be about SEO.
Okay.
So write blogs about what's an appointment look like, how do you work, all those sorts of things. And people will still be Googling what's an appointment with podiatrists like, but you're talking about the experience in your clinic, and that helps people put their minds at rest. It's just a lot more use if you can come to a website, because like you said, you've probably never even heard of a podiatrist before. If you can come to somebody's website, you can see their clinic, you can see how they work, you can see how they dress, and then you can read a blog about what the appointment might be like, what's expected of you. Do I need to come in sandals? You just don't know, do you? There's so many things that are obvious to you as a podiatrist, because you do it all day, every day, that other people might not know, that they might need to have their minds put at rest about, or would just be interested in. Maybe you're interested in getting into podiatry as a field. There's no reason to stop you writing blogs about the people that might be interested in getting into it as a profession.
That makes sense though, because it is, like you said, it's education, but it's also building up trust. So just providing information about your clinic. If they do come across a blog article, they might read it and go, okay, now I want to know more about you, the people that work there, the process that they're going to go through. But every time you're on your website updating and putting this information on there, when Google is coming through and indexing, they go, this website's still alive because something
Yeah.
has changed. So
Yeah.
all changes are good changes, all
Yeah.
updates.
Just remember, you can then, once you've updated a page, you can then ask Google to re-crawl and index it so that it gets the new changes. So if you go into your old blogs, for example, and change things so that they're more SEO friendly, you can then get Google to index them again, or index them, because not everything gets indexed. So you can look through what you've got that isn't indexed, maybe fix it, and then ask it to be crawled and indexed.
We covered a lot more than I thought we were going to cover. Some of this explanation has been great in some of these areas, and I think everybody listening to this, I think they're going to write a little bit more. And then we'll go and check out your course. So you go to your website, rachelbraywriting.com. Like I said, I'll have all the links in the show notes. So Rachel, I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing some of your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really interesting. Thank you.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
Thanks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Rachel Bray. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And as I mentioned during the recording, probably one of the best explanations I've ever had of SEO, especially when she broke it down to the technical SEO and on-page SEO. I thought that was a fantastic description of what SEO actually is. Now, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please tell your friends that the Podiatry Legends podcast exists. And if you're really enjoying it, please consider leaving a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you happen to be listening to this podcast on. So anyway, that's it for me this week. I want you to look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.